Welcome back everyone to Crypto Oracles. Today we're going to talk about Polkadot. I'm going to drive you through what Polkadot is, what parachains are, what a crowdload auction is. We're going to take a look at ACALA and MOONBEAN, two of the major parachain projects. We're going to see how you can get involved directly or through Binance. Don't forget to subscribe to get notifies about all our new videos. Smash the like button and follow us on our profiles linked below. So let's get going right away. So what is Polkadot? So Polkadot is a blockchain, but it behaves very differently from the ones that you may know. So it's been designed to support various interconnected application-specific subchains that are called parachains, or parallelized chain because they run in parallel. So each chain allows the developer to select specific components that suit their application-specific chain best. Now, this simply means that instead of having one chain for one use case, so let's take, for example, Solana, or let's take Ripple, for example. So Ripple blockchain is for transactions and payments. We've seen the Ethereum blockchain being used for NFTs. Now, let's take a look at Polkadot. So Polkadot blockchain per se, it's not a chain used for a specific use case. It's mostly used for governance and for voting. So it defines what the ecosystem, how the ecosystem should work and what you can do with it. And then the parachains are the ones that actually apply to specific use case. And so we can see DeFi, we can see NFTs, we can see all sort of things. So we're going to dive into it. So the base platform doesn't support application functionality. But instead, it provides security to the network's parachain and contains Polkadot consensus, finality, and voting logic. That's pretty much the high level of what Polkadot is. And just to give a bit of background, Polkadot was founded by Gavin Wood, who is one of the co-founders of Ethereum and the inventor of the Solidity smart contract. And he's also the same guy who in 2017 launched the Web3 Foundation. So let's take a look at Polkadot website, see what they say, how they explain what Polkadot is. So Polkadot is a scalable, interpolable, and secure network protocol for the next web. Not too clear in my opinion. What they're saying here is that it allows you to plug in multiple things, and this is going to be seen as the next generation of Web3 and the next generation of the web. So Polkadot is a network protocol that allows any type of data, so we're not talking about tokens exclusively, to be transferred across blockchains. And I make a really good example here, which is, let's say that you have a private school that has permission academic records on a chain that you can send as a proof of a degree verification on a public chain. So what they're saying is that Polkadot makes it possible to build applications that get permission data from a private chain and use it on a public blockchain because of this idea of different parachains, different layers. So let's scroll through this. So putting all the things I just said together, we have what's called a relay chain. So the relay chain is the heart of Polkadot, and it's the one that we said is responsible for security, consensus, and cross-chain interoperability. So this is basically the core of Polkadot, but doesn't have a use case apart from managing everything around it. The parachains are actually the sovereign blockchains, then have their own tokens, they have a use case, and have specific functionality. So these are the ones that we're interested in when we actually do things in the space. And then we have parathreads, which are similar to parachains, but with a pay-to-go model. So they don't need continuous connectivity. And then if we dig even deeper, we have what's called bridges. So they allow parachains and parathreads to connect and communicate with external networks. So you can imagine this like a bit of an onion in layers. You start from the relay chain at the very core, you build parachains on top, you build threads on top, and then you have bridges that spread out to other different protocols, external networks. Right, so yeah, as explaining here, parachains are specialized blockchains that connect to Polkadot, and they have specific characteristics for their use case. And that's it. And the cool thing about Polkadot, of course, is that now we have parallelized transactions. We have multiple things going on at the same time on parallel chains that are all part of the same ecosystem. So as they say, multiple parachains means multiple possibilities, and why other blockchain protocols only allow developers to build decentralized application using smart contracts. So you have a smart contract that interacts with a blockchain, and that's how you build your application. The smart contract defines the logic of your application. Polkadot actually gives you full control of the chain itself. So the application is built on the chain, not on the contract that acts on the chain. And of course, then we can have parachains for any purpose. We can have DeFi, we can have gaming, we can have NFTs, we can have DAOs, and so on. So let's start taking a look at the slot auctions. So you probably heard by now about auctions. So Polkadot auctions. So of course, we can have multiple chains, but not everybody can be there at the same time. There's a limit. So parachains can connect to Polkadot by leasing a slot on the relay chain. The relay chain is the core of Polkadot we talked about earlier, so the main chain. And this slot is only available for 96 weeks with option to renew it. So if you are a developer and you have your own team and you say, oh, let's go and develop a blockchain that is going to run on Polkadot, well, you can't just plug it in. You're going to have to win a slot. And that slot is going to be available for a certain amount of time in which you can run your application. And then, of course, if you're doing really well, you get renewed. And as the space grows, we can expect it to allow more and more parachains. And so these slots are assigned on an auction basis. So you have to participate into an auction and win a slot. And to do this, you have to lock DOT, which is the Polkadot coin. So let's see how the actual auctions work. So the first thing you have to do is bond your DOT, which means that you bid in the auction and you lock a portion of the DOT tokens for the duration of the lease. So we said it's 96 weeks. So as long as the project runs on the parachain, you have to keep Polkadot locked for that time. And once the lease ends, the full amount of DOT is unlocked and returned to the project. Now, you're probably wondering, then how can we jump onto this? Well, these projects need support, right? They need to be able to lock as many dots as possible because this is an auction, to ensure that they actually leased a slot on the relay chain. They can link to the relay chain and deploy their blockchain on Polkadot. So to do this, they do crowd loans, which means that us as individual give our own dots and lock our own dots for their codes. So let's say we pick ACALA and MOONBEAN that I'm going to talk about in 1 second. And as an investor, I decide that I'm going to lock 50 dots on ACALA. So I give 50 dots to ACALA, and then they give it to the Polkadot ecosystem. They lock them in there as part of the auction. And if they win the auction, then I get some ACALA back. And then in 2 years' time, I also get my dot back. And then I can use ACALA in the ecosystem. I can resell and trade ACALA and so on. So I'm now a stakeholder of ACALA, for example. And the auction opens, so open bidding is approximately 1 week. And then the precise moment of the auction end is actually determined retroactively, which means that we don't have a precise ending point, but we know kind of when the auctions are going to end. And in this case, the first batch of auctions is going to end on the 16th of December or thereabout. And then, as we said, they're going to be locked for 96 weeks if the project wins the lease for the slot on the relay chain. So let's talk about ACALA. So what is ACALA? So ACALA is a decentralized finance network and liquidity hub on Polkadot. It's a layer 1 smart contract platform that is scalable, Ethereum compatible, and optimized for DeFi. So in short, ACALA allows you to do staking, lending, and borrowing. Is a DeFi platform, and it's very similar to other platforms you see in other places. I think I could compare it to PancakeSwap on BNB. We could compare it to SpookySwap on Phantom. We can compare it to any other DeFi application that allows you basically to do lending, borrowing, staking, swapping, and things like that. So this is basically it's the first DeFi hub on Polkadot. That's basically what it means, and it allows you to access DOT, assets, and derivatives of that. And it's backed by a stablecoin, which is the AUSD, ACALA USD, which is a built-in programmable primitive of the ACALA network. And this just means that ACALA offers you a stablecoin as part of its network. And I think that's pretty much it. They're, of course, trying to lower fees by using ACALA. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the high level of what ACALA is. They have a roadmap that has been published and going on since early 2019, so it's a fairly established project. We see here in the roadmap they are a candidate for the parachain launch. They just still doing the economic audit for the ACALA token, and the launch it's planned for 2021, so by the end of 2021, which is part of the auction. So if they get a slot in the auction, then we will see the ACALA coin and we will see the effective launch go live. Next up is MOONBEAN. So MOONBEAN, actually much simpler probably to understand, is just an Ethereum compatible smart contract parachain. What this means is that if you have a project on Ethereum and you have a smart contract written for Ethereum, you don't have to rewrite everything if you want to bring it over to Polkadot. You can take that contract and you can bring it into the Polkadot parachain, in this case MOONBEAN, and then you can launch your application on MOONBEAN, which means that your application is now part of the Polkadot ecosystem. And guess what? If you have a token, then more than likely you will be able to trade that token on ACALA. So you can see how the different layers start to interconnect, and anybody can get a slot for a blockchain and then deploy your application and allow, for example, in this case, to allow other people and developers to deploy applications. So MOONBEAN allows developers to deploy Ethereum contract based on Polkadot chain. And yeah, so you can redeploy your existing smart contracts to a Polkadot environment without need to refactor or rewrite. So any application that we have on Ethereum can now run on the Polkadot network. And of course, this is very, very powerful. MOONBEAN helps projects expand their reach to new user markets with a multi-chain approach. So let's take a look at, again, the way this works and a bit more details for developers. So MOONBEAN simplifies the developer experience by combining the Ethereum compatibility with the power of Polkadot, which includes scalability, cross-chain integration, on-chain governance, lower fees, and so on. So it's basically aimed for developers so that they continue to use the programming language and tools they grown used to. So if you develop a project in Solidity, for example, on Ethereum, but you can have a fast growing and scalable layer 1 chain, which also means lower fees for your user as well. And this is compatible with the Substrate and Polkadot ecosystem, so you can interact with, for example, other chains, and these include explorers, wallets, other parachains, and more. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a lot more than just a simple bridge to Ethereum. It's an actual launchpad for applications that used to run on Ethereum and want to tap into Polkadot world. So let's now take a look at how you can get involved, how you and I can get involved into the para auctions, so the crowdloan para auction. So the way it works is actually quite simple. You contribute your DOT, and you are given some ACALA back in the case of ACALA, or MOONBEAN in the case of MOONBEAN. There's a fixed amount of ACALA to be distributed. So of course, the more people contribute DOT, the less ACALA you will get. It's quite normal. You can see that a lot of people started contributing since November 4th. It's quite exponential. We now reached 6 million dots. Remember that one dot is about $50. So this is quite a lot of money at the moment. And you have 4 ways to participate. You can contribute directly, which means you just stake your DOT. You can contribute and stay liquid, which is really cool, which means that you contribute your DOT, but then it's not actually locked for 2 years. You can still access it, and we're going to look at it in a second. You can use an exchange or use a wallet. So I think the most common option is contribute and stay liquid. And if we look down here, they explain how this works. So you contribute DOT to the liquid crowdloan vault. You receive some ACALA tokens once they win the auction. So you have your ACALA tokens, which are likely to grow in price over time as an investment. You receive liquid crowdloan DOT, which is a cool thing. So you basically receive something called LC DOT. So you're given back your DOT in something called LC DOT, and represents the whole stake of your locked DOT tokens. And with these, you can then access your DOT if you want to get them again in 2 years' time. But you can also use them in the ACALA ecosystem. So you can swap them from other tokens that you want to invest in. You can use them as a collateral to mint a stablecoin, which is the ACALA USD. So what you could really just do is you put your DOTs in, lock them up, and then once ACALA wins a slot for the parachain, you get given LC DOT, and you turn the LC DOT in US dollars, and there you go. You got a stablecoin. You're no longer exposed. If the price of Polkadot collapses, you're good. You got your ACALA, that's what you cared about probably if you contributed, and your Polkadot is now safe. And in 2 years' time, you can either get back your liquidity dots and crown on your DOT, or you can just keep your USDs. Very similar process for Moonbean. So you lock a portion of your DOT in exchange for the native token GLMR. And until the slot has been successfully won, this will be locked. And then once they have won the slot, you will get 30% of rewards immediately and 70% over the course of the 2 years. The difference here with Moonbean is that there is no liquidity token, so you don't have a possibility to basically lower your risk of holding Polkadot for so long. And then if you look down here, how this works is very similar. So you lock your DOT, you pre-register for the crowdloan on their website, you obtain an Ethereum Moonbean address. So if you have an Ethereum wallet, you're good. That's all you need. That's where they're going to send your Moonbeans. If you don't have one, then they explain here how to do it. And then you just participate in the crowdloan using the DApp. So you go on the decentralized application, you lock your dots, and then once they win the slot, they will send back their native coin to you. So of course, this is very interesting. This is a good opportunity, but to some of you, this may sound complex. How do I get a wallet? How do I interact with this? There is a bunch of risk involved. I'm going to lock this for 2 years. What if I forget about it? What if something goes wrong? What if I send the money to the wrong address? And of course, Binance has come to the rescue. So I guess most people will have an account in Binance nowadays. It's one of the biggest exchanges. And now you can participate in the slot auctions on Binance Earn. So Binance Earn is the platform for Binance for earning rewards by staking coins. And they just announced that Binance users can now participate in dot slot auctions on the Binance platform. And not only you get the coins for whichever project you're locking your DOT for, but you're also getting a $30 million warm-up bonus prize, which is split across the user that stake DOT. So this is basically the same thing I just described, but instead of having to create a wallet, send your DOT, stake your DOT, figure out how to do this, you just do it all in Binance in one click. You just buy DOT, stake it on the project you want. If they win the auction, it stays there for 2 years and you get the coin. Of course, in the case of ACALA, you can't have liquidity tokens, which means that if you stake it through Binance and you're interested in ACALA, your DOT will be locked for 2 years and you won't have any way to lower your risk by, for example, minting a USD. You will just have to keep your DOT and hope that the price of DOT doesn't collapse. So the way it works is very similar. So you deposit your DOT, or buy them in the Binance account. Once you deposit them, there is a warm-up period in which you can basically pick a coin. And then once the slot auction is open, you can vote for whichever coin you want, effectively locking your DOTs. And then if it's successful, the DOT is bonded, so for 2 years, you're not going to have access to it. If it's unsuccessful, you just get your DOT back. And then once the period of 2 year ends, you get your DOTs back. And of course, you also get the coin, the relative coin for whatever you decided to lock DOT for. And then if we take a look at the way it works here, actually, let me switch page. So it's actually quite intuitive. You have the list of projects here, and then you can just vote. And when you click vote, it will bring you to the staking platform in which you just stake your DOTs. And then you can choose different projects. We talked about Moonbean, we talked about ACALA. Let me give you a bit of a intro on the other ones that we have. So we have Clover, which is a cross-chain compatibility blockchain and a DeFi app store. We have Aster Network, which connects multiple layer 1 blockchains to Polkadot. We have LatenTree, which is a network for cross-chain identities. So we're talking about privacy here. We have Mantra, which is a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization for staking, lending, and launchpads. And then we have Affinity, which is a blockchain for NFTs. So if you're interested in the NFT space, this is the only project on the list at the moment. So this could be interesting to look at as well. And then finally, we have Parallel, which is DeFi, again, and automated market making. I suggest you do your own research in this case and take a look at individual ones before doing any investments. And they tell you here for one DOT how many coins you get. Definitely check the main website. So we did this for you. So if you want to invest in ACALA in this case, it says here for one DOT, you get free plus ACALA. If we go back to the original ACALA website, we can actually take a look at how to do this ourselves here. And there is a ACALA reward calculator. It says that for 10 DOTs, I'm going to get back either 30 to 223 ACALA. So for one DOT, I get 3 to 22, which matches what Binance is saying. They're saying 3 plus ACALA. So definitely check how much Binance is giving you to make sure you get at least the minimum amount and you don't get less than what you could get by going through the main website. So I hope this has been useful, and I hope this has been a good video for understanding what Polkadot is, parachains, auctions, and how you can take part into it. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to leave a comment down below. Feel free to use the Telegram chat to ask us any question, interact with us directly. We're very open and very helpful about these things. And again, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.